It's such a character, just such a character. I love the way that its boughs branch out and almost seem to hold up the rest of the canopy. Here we are, the juniper-studded overlook at Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve. Gratitude needs humility in a humble mode. It's not all about you. You have to be humble enough to be appreciative of the fact that there is always something else to see. This is exactly what I wanted to happen. That's just incredible. Yes, it looks to me like a muntjac. Very windy. So here we are, Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve. Perhaps the most frequented nature reserve of my life, which is very strange to say. I've visited Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve hundreds of times, and indeed I'm sure there must be instances of Chinnor Hill appearing on this channel. I've done so much here, I've thought about so much here. I've been here in all weather. I've been here in every season. Again, I've been living in this area since 2018, and Chinnor Hill, it's about 14 minutes drive away, so I come here often drive, sometimes cycle. And as I'll get on to, I've even written about this particular nature reserve. It's a strange thing that if what I care about most is obviously the natural world, and I've been alive on this planet for 32 years, I can pinpoint this one nature reserve as the nature reserve. It's a very strange thing to say. You'd think it would be obviously in Scotland, some place that I visited a lot more in Scotland, but that's just not the case. I visited Chinnor Hill so many times. Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve, a patchwork of flowery grassland, scrub and woodland steeped in ancient history. Chinnor Hill crowns a Chiltern escarpment, offering panoramic views of Aylesbury Vale and the distant Cotswolds. The chalky soils provide the perfect conditions for a wonderful variety of wildlife to thrive. Areas of chalk grassland support delicate wildflowers and the rare insects that rely on them, and ancient beech woodland caps the top of the hill. The reserve has a rich history, and the traces of many eras of previous settlers are still visible today. I'm not going to read it all, as you'll be able to read it for yourself, of course. But we've got grassland. I mean, it's rare, unique species, of course, the Chiltern gentian, for example. Shady woodland, cute hazel dormouse there. Nationally protected species. Diverse scrub. And as it mentions, the juniper bushes there. I'll speak more on juniper later. In the prehistoric past, I mean, there's just so much. It feels like it's forgive the pun, but it feels tailor-made for me, that this nature reserve. But yes, it's part of the Upper Icknield Way, following the Ridgeway. Probably walk the Ridgeway on some episode of this series. Yes, this whole area is part of the chalk spine of England, essentially. It's the long arm of the long green arm of the Chilterns. That protects me from London, as I say in a recent editorial. Yes, there are also sunken pathways and ancient yews and Bronze Age barrows and things. Really, it really has it all. And also there are, as with most nature reserves, there's grazing management going on. And often you can see cattle. I mean, it's just incredible, and I've been here so many times, and there's always new things to see. Never ceases to amaze. and also it's not just this particular area here. As you can see, it looks quite small, but actually this is just the official, what is officially designated as Chinnor Hill, but it takes in woodland far to the east, and up, and there's, I might even go to Lodge Hill, which is connected to this area, but this is actually, you can do this in a fairly short amount of time. There's a lot more to see than just what's on this map. So I'm very much aware that as I'm beginning this series, there are obviously so many walks and paths and trails and overlooks and things like this that I'll not be able to capture in every episode. So it might be that I come back again as a second to cover more ground, essentially. So I could go down this particular route here, but I'm not going to. I think I'm going to just go for the usual route I take. Down that way is actually quite an ominous and quite atmospheric dip down into the land. You can see exposed banks of roots, and there's old yew trees and things. It's very dark and dense. It's quite an interesting route, but I think we'll just go the usual way to get to the overlook, the first main overlook. Let's begin our journey to Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve. So again, this place is just, I almost can't believe that it exists. And that's going to be a very common theme, of course. Another brimstone just passed me, brimstone butterfly, which you'll have seen in the first episode. And I may as well point out this beech tree just as a first example. The beech and leaves coming in here. There are going to be many beech trees on this walk, and we're actually headed to a particular beech tree, a favourite tree of mine, one of my favourite trees, not only of this area but just in general, I think. So I might as well mention that as with Snakemore Nature Reserve, I was very grateful to be able to show this particular nature reserve to Patrick Curry when he came down. That was the same day that we visited Snakemore. It was a lovely summer's day. Of course, this is springtime, but the reason I'm here is because obviously there are more wildflowers out. Now, what we're going to do is we're not going to take that path. We're going to turn left here, and every single time I enter this woodland in this area, in this way, by this little turn, it never ceases to amaze me. And I often say to myself, I can just get out to this location in about 14-15 minutes by car, and I'm in the woods, often by myself. And there's something about this particular area here. Just when the woods open up, of course we could have went the wooded way, but this is where it really opens up. I don't know, it might sound ridiculous, but I just love being able to just be here by myself and just move. Obviously, I think what's so strange about this is that, again, I have dedicated my life, if I can say that, to just being in nature. And yet, somehow, despite all the things I've done, in terms of my volunteering and then studying and whatnot, and also work with ecological consultancy and things like this. Now in particular, I just have this sense of sheer joy at just being able to be in a woodland. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's because in the past few years I've really been trying to cultivate gratitude. I mean, just look at this. Incredible. And it's just me here just now. You can hear the occasional gunshot, but just me in a completely still woodland. I'm going to be quiet for a second. That is what I love most. And as I actually look down to the ground, I notice plant species that we've not covered in the series. This is, I believe, early dog violet, Viola reichenbachana. Very delicate. It's obviously indicative of, given the name, it's very indicative of spring. Obviously you get crocuses and snowdrops as other examples of early spring indicators, but early dog violet is one of my favourites. Actually, speaking of snowdrop, it is a shame that I didn't record a little bit earlier, because snowdrops is that particular wildflower reminds me quite a little bit of the of the Kodama spirits, the tree spirits in Princess Mononoke. But they're gone now, unfortunately. Still, it's nice to see early dog violet there. So, what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to try a little bit of tree climbing, and then we'll make our way. Because I'm cognizant, actually, the fact that I want to take in a lot of Chinnor Hill. The first episode was quite extensive because we've visited various places and done various things. But this is just going to be Chinnor Hill. But Chinnor Hill is, of course, it's a much more extensive nature reserve. So it's going to be pretty much dedicated to this video. That is, it's going to be dedicated to this one area. Now let's go and find that beech tree, one of my favourite trees. Grey squirrel there. Every time I see a grey squirrel, I have competing thoughts, of course, given that they're extremely prolific numbers, can decimate a woodland. And yet also, I find myself sometimes pushing back against my ecological background, in that I often try to these days focus more on the individual personhood of a non-human being. And not to say that ecological problems aren't serious, but I don't know. I remember sometimes in my classes. So there's another grey squirrel, actually. Don't know if you can see it on the camera. Often thought of as a non-native, and then words like eradication would be used. But it's not through any fault of their own that they've found a foothold in England. But here we are. This particular stretch of woodland is one of the most enchanting for me. And this particular tree is one of my favourite trees of all time. This old, magnificent specimen of Fagus sylvatica. And it has indeed appeared on a recent short video about tree climbing. No matter how many times I look at this tree, It's such a character. Just such a character. I love the way that its boughs branch out and almost seem to hold up the rest of the canopy. Look, perhaps you can see what I mean. It's just incredible. The green of these beechen leaves here. And so what I think I might do is I might try a little bit of climbing, but not too much, of course. I want to try and make some progress on this walk. So I've just come from that direction, and as I was walking, I met yet again this tree, another beech with a surprisingly thick trunk and thick boughs, and it's a tree that I've often wanted to sit in, although I can't quite, maybe it doesn't look too high on the camera, but I can't quite bring myself to lurch up into the bole there, the bole of the tree. There's nothing really to grab onto. Maybe one day I'd love to sit there. I just have an unfortunate fear of heights. Here is dog's mercury, Mercurialis perennis, an ancient woodland indicator species. It's a shame, I could have recorded a little bit later on. You might see more wildflowers and so forth, but there's a decent amount nonetheless. Brimstone on lords and ladies there. And so we are about to come up to the first major point of Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve, the first overlook, which is a place of special significance for me. And indeed it's actually, I must have featured it on the channel before in a vlog. Here we are, the juniper-studded overlook at Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve. And I have, suffice it to say, I have stood here many, many times. Sometimes in the middle of the night, when it's frosty and the moon's out. It's just otherworldly. Well, no, it's not otherworldly. I fell into the trap. Chinnor Hill is special for its species-rich grassland, typical in the chalk hills of the Chilterns. Indeed it is. We've got red kites as well. Red kites are extremely prolific in the Chilterns. I often see red kites. Indeed, they often take food from in the garden. We've got grazing sheep and cattle, butterflies, Lepidoptera, marbled white there. It's just a dream, this place. Just a dream. When I see the underlying chalk results in thin, infertile soils, it's reminded me of competitive exclusion. I just can't help but think of my past studies in ecology, countryside management. This is common spotted orchid. The yellow meadow ant. There's just so much here. The long-tailed tit, Aegyphalus caudatus, the bullfinch. But yes, as you can see, there's just so much incredible wealth of biodiversity here. And I don't know, there's something about these rustic interpretation boards, and when you see everything come together in a lovely illustration like this, it just really encapsulates the place. So all around me here are gnarled juniper bushes, Juniperus communis. I believe I've mentioned several times, so I won't belabor the point. But I was very interested in the subject of juniper decline, and it was actually going to be the subject of my dissertation, the undergraduate dissertation. And I had quite an enlightening conversation with the managers at Natural England about how to carry out my project. This particular area is very significant for juniper populations, and well, I decided to focus on something else instead, and that was, of course, the family Sylphidae, the family of carrion beetles. But I love the way juniper looks. It feels quite exotic. It's a very versatile plant. And there was a plant I saw somewhere. Let me try and find it. There we are. It's a very small, almost hidden away cowslip there. Primula veris, I believe, related to Primula vulgaris, related to the primrose that we saw in the first episode at Snakemoor, I think it was. So again, the sun is shining. It's a little bit windy, but the sun is shining, and it's just me here currently. I like to sit on that particular bench there and just think. And actually, I just got goosebumps, I have to say, because I was about to walk down. That's where we will be going, but actually, I'm going to head there for a very special reason. You can actually see a red kite. See, I just love when things like this align. Just heading to a particular area, and there's a red kite swooping. Just the joy of traversal. Just being on this chalk downland amongst these almost. Just look at these how characterful these juniper bushes are. The texture and the colours. I love how they always look a little bit frosty or frosted. Particularly beautiful when it has actually been snowing. Of course, I mean look at the rustic character of these juniper bushes. Here is one of my favourite spots, hidden away. And it's actually significant for two reasons. One is this area, which we'll enter that in a second, but just down there, I think, in this area here, I actually recorded. It was on one of the days I recorded my very long and very complex video detailing my Masters of English by Research thesis on Lord Dunsany and J.R.R. Tolkien, and I spoke about the King of Elfland's daughter, and I felt very fitting with this little town here in the fields. But let's enter this area. I have to stoop. I mean, we haven't even begun. We have not even really begun this journey. And look where we are. Some of you might remember, you might recognise this location. Doesn't look as good, the light, we're not at the golden hour, but I once took a photograph in this particular spot, and it's one of my favourite photographs. It's like a portal. The way that the tree is arcing there. It's just such an incredible spot. I mean, it's very Hobbit-esque as well. I just love the fact that I'm going to do it right now. I'm sitting down. I'm sitting down here and just under this beech tree with no one around. Just in my own little world, as it were. And I can just sit here. I mean, again, it's one of those things that I could do more often, where I could sit here and just lose myself in thinking or writing or even drawing or listening to music. And some people don't have that, of course. Not even close. And in fact, I might as well sit here for a bit and have some food, actually, and just think. So look, I'm not entirely sure what it is I need to say. And I think, actually, the significance of the series is that I'm going to just say what comes to mind. I don't have a particular doctrine about gratitude. I don't have any steps or anything like that. Of course, one can say things like, I can imagine someone else sitting under a tree, perhaps not in as nice an area as this. I could say things like, try to count each individual leaf. It's not just a tree, it's all of the leaves that it supports, or vice versa. And just try and look at how characterful and unique it is, because of course every tree is its own being, its own person. It's not just a green thing standing in the way. And because it is a person, you can always find something else in it. I've sat here before under this particular beech tree, and I'm noticing things about it now that I never noticed before. And so you can do that as well. Even I'm just trying to think, that I'm sure there will be places I'll go to that are more suited to this particular point. But I would like to make the point now, I suppose, that even if you live in an urban area, and you've got a plantation beside you. Plantations, they're still trees. Sometimes I lock myself into my ecological mode, my particularly with my background, and I think that plantations are ecologically poor and damaging. Monocultures are damaging, but they're still trees, and you can still be appreciative of that fact. I don't know, there's all manner of things to say, and something I was actually thinking about yesterday when I went on the previous walk to Snakemoor and other such places. I was thinking that I'm not trying to get the best out of these trips. I'm just trying to. It's just one particular walk through a nature reserve that I've been to many times before. I'm just seeing what comes out. And those thoughts that I just had, as an example of what came out, I think you can take value in any amount of greenery. And maybe if you actually don't feel like going out, because it's the only place that you have available to you, and it might feel a little bit stale or too familiar, try and appreciate again. Try and regain that sense of wonder even in that situation. Don't force it, of course, you can't force wonder. But you can just, it doesn't have to be anything elevated either. You can just, I don't know, it's a tricky thing, because I'm thinking of sometimes in my experience, even though I've got all of this around me, sometimes I just don't feel like going out, and I will admit it's actually quite difficult to say. Sometimes I think it's just more woodland. I think how many times I've been in woodland. And yeah, think about how I am reacting right now in this video. You have to almost, the human mind is almost programmed to become desensitized. So you almost have to reaffirm the inexhaustible richness of the natural world in a way. I was just about to get up and I realised that something I haven't spoken about is the relation of humility to gratitude. Gratitude needs humility in a humble mode. It's not all about you. You have to be humble enough to be appreciative of the fact that there is always something else to see. Always a new facet of the natural world, always a new way of approaching things. Humility. It's not about me. When I come out, it's not about me. Sometimes I think when I come out to Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve in particular, I think, well, I've seen everything. But that's not true. Even just of the topography of this place, the lay of the land. There is. I've not the patch that I'm looking at right now. I've never seen before, and the patch has changed in the past 20 minutes or so. Any number of things. There's constant change, constant flux. It's just if you can never know. Just watching a bird there flitting around. If you can never know a particular non-human being fully, think about a place, a beloved place. Think about an entire ecosystem of myriad beings and interlocking ways of life, ways of being. So we're going to head away from this overlook into the beech woods. And I was about to say that this area is one of my favourites, but it's all each section. I think of Chinnor Hill in particular in sections, and they all have something distinct to offer. And I was very moved actually by Patrick's response to this particular beechwood. And actually I think it looks better in the summer when the leaves are at their most green and full, at their fullest, but still it's going to be lovely nonetheless. So the beech woods are that way, but I just want to turn into this particular track here. It's looking for wildflowers. Yeah, oh wow, we've got a lot of forget-me-nots. Look how brilliant these colours are. All the insect life as well. In fact, have a look at this. I believe these are stink bugs, red and black stink bugs. They are hemipterans, true bugs. Just look at this. Absolute panoply of insect life on a single leaf of garlic mustard. I've seen this view many, many times. Unfortunately, it's not quite as green as it could be at the time of recording, but there's just something about this particular scene with just the gradual change in lighting conditions and the perspective change, the sense of distance. It looks deeper than it actually is. The sort of fadedness of the beech trees, the stands of beech, and of course the fence there, and what looks to be a rather substantial tree hut or hideout. Just enchanting. And I have to say, for those that are of a similar persuasion as me, it has something of the classic role-playing game feel, classic fantasy feel. Now I know that down here it's a rather impressive drop, but we're not going to take that particular route. I'll just show you it. So along this track here, it dips down. It's quite a steep incline. Perhaps get a sense of it down there. But we're not headed that way. But as I say, this place is extremely extensive and there's a lot to see. In fact, there are areas that I've still not fully broken into. We're going to head back around up there. John Fowles, in his book The Tree, really an extended essay, says that beech trees, well, being in a beech wood is like being in a green cathedral. And in fact, I actually was reminded of that point when I visited Burnham Beeches with Patrick. There's that name again. Just look at this spaciousness, sense of the airy spaciousness. And it's really here that I remember, that I get to tell myself that I'm someone who lives beside hills. Now, of course, when I was younger, I used to live in Scotland, and I had the Pentland Hills, much bigger hills than these, of course, but I couldn't drive at the time, and still, they were a fair drive away. This is right on my doorstep, and again, it's a baseline condition. The fact that I can just be here by myself just it never gets any less significant to me. And whenever I'm out walking with my twin, for example, I'll actually stop and say, just look at that, or just stop here and think the fact that we can even do this. And he most of the time agrees with me. it's just, I mean, as I said in the last video, some people actually are lucky enough to live in national parks. It's strange actually, I would almost prefer not to, because I wouldn't want to make, I mean, I speak about gratitude, but of course there's still a sense in which it's only natural. It's only natural that you can become used to something, and to become used to an impressive national park with mountains and very extensive forests. For example, if I lived in the Cairngorms National Park in Scotland, it would be a dream, but then it would become familiar. I would just have to try and employ those techniques I mentioned earlier on in this video, I think. But just look at speaking of, I spoke about the greenery. Unfortunately, it's not the best time. The light is a bit diffuse, so there's no golden light coming through the trees, but still lovely to see. We're passing through these two twin beaches here. Just the wind and the leaves here. I've often stood at this point looking into the distance. There's something about, I don't know what it is, it's very dreamlike, and I don't say dreamlike to obviously diminish the concrete material real world. I just mean that it's, when I look into the depths of woods, I often think about certain childhood memories and associations. You got a strange welling up of emotion. Actually, I remember going on a school trip. I don't know where it was, I don't know why we were there. I just have an image of sitting in some woodland, somewhat in an elevated place. I would give anything actually to know where that was. And even though I didn't have much connection to the natural world at that time, it's a sense of deep, it's almost like being in a different life. I don't know. It's actually extremely difficult to articulate right now. But I get that sense, or I'm reminded of that time. I must have been about maybe 6 or 7 years old. And I think I might have said on this video or to someone else, but I have said in the past that every single time you come out to the woods, a particular view or a particular plant or animal will bring up certain associations. And actually, sorry, I'm finding it difficult to speak because I'm just utterly, it doesn't come across on camera. It does not come across on camera. The sun is just pervading the beach and canopy. This is exactly what I wanted to happen. That's just incredible. It really is a perfect example there. I'm just by myself, it's completely quiet, obviously apart from my voice, and I'm just here, recording this video. I have this suspicion that people, when they live in a place, they sort of make it their own, and it becomes the norm. And that is the case for me, and yet somehow it's almost as if I'm still living in Scotland with the mind of my teenage mind. I didn't have much contact with nature, and I can say And I used to say, in fact, I used to say I would love to just have woodland beside, nearby. I would love to have hills. I mean, I can just point to this, to all of this. No. It's almost as if I actually don't believe that I can be in such a place as this. Something I should mention as well, it's not just obviously my joy at having access to nature, it's actually it's almost a difficulty with dealing with certain aesthetic experiences. Like back there, for example, when the sun came through the canopy, came through the leaves, I found that I'm almost doing these videos because I want to show people what I have. And I would almost prefer to not speak. I would almost prefer to just show. So oftentimes when I go out to nature reserve, I take photos of things. Just look at that view there. I've actually seen horses sometimes riding along this path. It's just incredible. Here's the sun again. Often when I go out to nature reserves, or if it's to a particular city with old architecture, for example, I often find it very difficult to deal with what I'm seeing, and actually try to take photos to be able to show other people what it is that I've been privy to. And I actually worry that it almost makes me seem like overly sentimental, or I don't know. I'm not trying to be too romantic about this with a capital R. Overly sentimental or fatuous. It's just, I do genuinely find it very difficult to process these things, which is why I think it's one of the main reasons I'm recording this video. There's actually almost around every turn, there's always something I want to say, but I don't think I can express it on camera. I don't know, when I look at this canopy here, just look into the distance once again, I just think that the world doesn't have to be as it is. And I don't know, it's always a sense of joy mixed with exasperation. It's interesting actually, as I'm making this particular video, I'm almost forgetting how much I've spoken about before on this channel. How, for example, I've actually sat in a wood in the Chilterns amongst bluebells, which I'll probably do in a few episodes' time. And I've talked about these things. But the beauty of nature, the wonder of nature, is that it actually forces you to think about them again. Which is a good thing. It reminds you of how things could be. But also, again, it also obviously comes with its frustrations. And so, I don't know, it makes me think that I shouldn't try to, as I'm walking here, I shouldn't try to come up with the words that are that will be set in stone. I'm almost wanting to do this again raw and minimally edited. So the goal is to go through the wood and down there to get on an open expanse of fields and hills. I just want to go on top of this hillock. Look at that, that's an impressive snag. It's all of these tree guards weren't here before. It's changed quite a lot. I've been up on this hill all weathers really, all times. I remember coming here with my twin at the dead of night when it was snowy, very frosty, and the moon was out. Nice views of the surrounding countryside. So think where we started. Think how far we've come. And I say that to myself. Think how far we're able to travel simply from a very short drive. And it's only going to open up from here. We're about to get to a very impressive view. And then even further. I mean, the lovely thing about the Chiltern Hills is that you can just keep walking. So there's so many trails and bridleways, the Ridgeway even. It's just an endless series of fields, farms, woodland, hedgerows, rivers. Just going to keep following this chalk path. So we've made our way out of the woods. A little bit overcast, a little bit windy, but you can't always have the best weather. It's been good enough. Now, interestingly enough, I haven't actually been to this location in a fair while. But I still remember when I first discovered this particular area and how everything opened up. I'd mostly stayed in all that area there where I've shown you. You can see this is all part of the Ridgeway, the Icknield Way. And I was just astonished, just utterly astonished, when I came into contact with this particular area. I almost laughed to myself, thinking, does it ever end? There's so many opportunities, so many places to see. And it's actually, it felt the same thing just coming here now. So again, speaking about expansiveness, speaking about the sheer joy of, there's just nothing better for the soul to be in a place, just an open green place. And actually, you might not even be able to get the full scale of this rather impressive stretch of land. Although the spine of the line of trees certainly helps. And I've been here when the sun was shining and not a cloud in the sky. And what I think I'm going to do, as the sun comes out a little bit, I'm going to scale the hill and have some food. So as I was making my way up the hill, I was rather shocked to see something I didn't expect to see. A dead deer. Now, I've seen a lot of carcasses in my time, but never one in such a state of decomposition with the skeleton fully exposed like this. It's quite the sight. It's been here quite a long time. Yes, it looks to me like a muntjac because of the size, but primarily because of the tusks. Very windy, as it should be at the top of a hill. Great views. So just on the way back now, I was deliberating whether or not to go to Lodge Hill, which is a hill connected to Chinnor Hill. I think of them as connected, but I think I'll do that separately. I'm still, as you may be able to tell, trying to decide how to approach each location, especially as not all of them are named nature reserves, but I think Chinnor Hill is certainly enough for one video. But yes, lovely views on top of that hill there. So as I was making my way back to the car park, I realised that I neglected to mention something, perhaps the most significant aspect of all in terms of the significance of Chinnor Hill Nature Reserve, which is that I've often come here to contemplate twilight. I even wrote about the significance of twilight to my life in connection with this nature reserve for Elsewhere journal, and an essay called Defiance and Half Light, which I won't go too much into here. I've spoken about it in the past, but it's essentially an essay on the subject of twilight and how it really contrasts with modernity's speed, light and noise, but also the sense in which even those good people who care about nature and who want to help facilitate heritage connections, they can sometimes go astray in their forwardness, their anger even. And I think of twilight as a kind of remedy to that, to come out here and to just strip things back to basics and just to sit and contemplate the ending of the day, just as I'm finishing this journey. Twilight is as a natural phenomenon, it's one of the most beautiful, and there are actually so many associations with me, with twilight, that is. I think about so many things when contemplating twilight. I often sit looking at the sun's descent as I'm trying to mull over life issues, and I often think about aesthetics and art and, well, all manner of things, even history, especially the past. Right now I'm showing you Chinnor barrows, a series of Bronze Age barrows, which I should say is just on the opposite side of the overlook. We're back at the overlook, and this is on the opposite side. So what we did is we went across, through the overlook, into the beechwood and over that way. And now I've come back the other way. And I'm showing you Chinnor barrows in connection to the significance of twilight as a time of ending, time of fading. It just reminds me of the past, of elder days. Makes me think about the people that lived in this landscape and that saw the same things or similar things as I have seen today. Felt the same sense of wonder as I have, and perhaps even sat atop this hill looking out as the sun descends. So, goodbye Chinnor Hill. You can see the interpretation board there, just beneath, just past this cherry tree. We're going to head back to the car park, back home. And I couldn't count how many times I've been here. I don't know what number of visit this is. Many, many, many visits. Many times I've opened the latch there and stood out looking upon the green and pleasant landscape.